Yo, what's good? It's Skano. So I hear that the young man Carmelo Anthony, who was being charged with murder. I think premeditated murder. In this situation, the stabbing that occurred with a young white man at this Dallas track meet. So I hear he made bail, and dude had to shut down his social media account. You know, all social media activity. Because he's being bombarded with racial epithets and death threats. And it seems that MAGA members are out in the front with this. But this is gonna be one of them ones. This case, it's gonna be one of them ones. And I'm not saying to the level of a Rodney of the Rodney King, but it's definitely gonna be. There's gonna be a lot of racial fallout behind this shit. Not to say, I mean, how much worse can it get, right? It's just going to create a further divide, no matter which way this go. Because obviously you got people on both sides, and like much like the O.J. Simpson trial, where I'm gonna be real with y'all, man. Y'all know damn well O.J. did that shit, man. And I'm saying, black folks would go to their graves saying OJ was innocent, knowing damn well OJ did that shit, because it was one of the Rodney King situation that jumped off not too long before that, and it was like, okay, yeah, now it's our turn to get some type of retribution in. But so I'm not saying there's no right or wrong here, man. I'm just saying it's one of them things, and this is going to be a circus. But that's not what I wanted to discuss. On the topic of bullies, man. And I would like to, anybody out there that's dealing with, a situation where you being bullied, you being targeted, and you're not quite sure what you should do about it. You feel, weak, you feel hopeless, it's screwing your life up, and I'm talking about, obviously, the younger crowd. Now, they tell you that most bullies are cowards, and, they target weaker individuals. Listen, yes and no, but a bully is somebody who get off on committing either violence or just degrading somebody else. That don't necessarily mean they a weakling. They could be straight up, you know what I'm saying? But regardless, speaking from experience, and I wouldn't say I wasn't never bullied, but we moved a lot, man. It seemed like every other year I was going to a different school, all the way up until damn near high school. And the first week of school, I always had to fight. Every new school, I'm a little skinny, little tiny, curly head mixed dude. And you got individuals who be, for whatever reason, they make up in their mind, they want to fuck with you. Whatever it may be. Whether, they jealous of you, whether they think you weak and they could try you, and drop their nuts, whatever the case may be. I'm going to tell you how you have to handle this. If you are, like I said, now there's levels to this. Grown people get bullied too. And that's a totally different situation, but you still gonna go about it in the same way. It's just that, like I said, some people require, more extreme tactics to be imposed upon them. Let me get to it. The only way that you're gonna deal with a bully is head on. I'm gonna be straight up with you. Ain't no other way around it. And like I said, man, it seemed like every time I went to a new school, I had to fight. But you know what? I never got bullied. Because after you get in their ass, let me rephrase that. When you show them that you're not backing down, you're not weak, even if they do get the better of you, even if they end up, you take a L, fight. Fight back with everything that you have. That's the only, ain't no other way around it. You have to fight. You cannot try to appeal to their sense of none of that. You got to fight with everything you have. And if that means, and for instance, you take a L and they feel like they're not quite finished with you. Usually, 99% of the time, individuals who thought they was going to bully me, once we got into it and you fight back, no more issues. Some of them even became my friends, wanted me to, join their little cliques. I'm not on it, but it gained their respect. Even if I took the L, the last thing you could do is show any weakness. You have to fight. That's all to it. And if they bigger than you, you're going to have to get a weapon. You cannot worry about consequences. You have to worry about that once, because you can't let someone, an ongoing thing. And this is for people who, still in school, day after day, you ducking, you feeling anxious. It's just taking you all out your hookup. You can't concentrate on your class work. You looking around every show, you know what I'm saying? Nah, that ain't no way to live, man. So, you fight back. And let's just say, like I said, they feel like they not finished with you yet. You got to take it to another level. If the hands ain't sufficient, you have to get a weapon. And I'm not promoting violence. We being real here. This is real life. All that shit they be talking about, there is no reasoning with a bully. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to appeal to their sense of compassion there's only one way to deal with people like that. And you have to inflict force, And whatever force somebody meets you with, you have to exceed that off the rip, So like I said, after that initial encounter, they still feel like they own whatever they own. You have to take it to another level. And if that means I'm not going to give nobody no ideas with you, y'all have brains. You know what I'm saying? You might have to go upside somebody's head with a solid object. You may have to, stick something in somebody, a sharp object. And this is just life, man. It shouldn't be this way. Kids shouldn't have to deal with shit like this, but how many millions of kids? There's a lot of kids out here, man, getting pressed, and they're afraid to fight back. Maybe you're just not aggressive, maybe you're just not a fighter, so you don't know what to do in that case. If you don't have any aggression in you whatsoever, and you don't have any associates that, you could call upon, pay somebody, You may have to, incentivize someone to step in, like a bodyguard or something, if you want to look at it that way. You got to think outside the box, man. These problems have to be solved, but 9 times out of 10, man, when you meet somebody with the same level of force, take it a notch, but you won't have any more issues. I'm not saying they gonna like you, but I promise you, in worst case scenario, you actually end up hurting someone, seriously hurting someone. And like I said, I'm not, I wish it was a world where we could be free of such, circumstances, but it is what it is. You may have to seriously hurt someone. and deal with the consequences. Document things. Make sure you document things. You know, I'm not saying a diary. Write it down, a laptop. Document the situation. And this is giving you some type of, fallback in case you do have to take it to that level. Like I said, whatever level you feel is necessary to get these individuals up off you. And it will be documented in case, you know what I'm saying? The powers that be, law enforcement, if that's what the situation end up going that route, you have something that clarifies, you know what I'm saying? That backs up, listen, this was an ongoing issue. Because most men, especially most people, men or female, people not going to tell. Who are you going to tell anyway? Who are you going to tell on who's going to care? You know, because the school system, a lot of times they let shit like this slide through the cracks. And as you get older, nobody gives a shit. You think somebody, if you're an adult out here getting bullied in the streets, you think somebody going to step into, no, you're on your own. So, like I said, man, you got to meet aggression with aggression, and you got to take it to another level and let the chips fall where they fall. And if that means you, like I said, you end up, caught up in a legal situation, sometimes there's no easy answers for things, you know. And this goes for anybody of any age. You know what I'm saying? You have to meet force with force. Turning the other cheek and trying to... That's a fairy tale, okay? And it'll be a rough life for you. I'm not saying... I commend people that can turn the other cheek and just absorb it and just, just tolerate it and go on with their life. That's a different type of strength, too. That doesn't necessarily make you weak because you want to avoid conflict and you don't want to, but that's the stigma attached to it. But like I said, me personally, who wants to deal with that shit? And I definitely wouldn't want my kids to deal with it. So as I instructed my kids, sometimes you got to get bloody. And if you get suspended behind it, you will never get in trouble from as long as you defending yourself, And if, like I said, man, if them hands ain't enough, you gotta devise other tactics. And it just is what it is, unfortunately, because you have people on this planet that are predators. And they feel like they can pick and choose who they can prey on, and it's usually the quiet ones. It's the quiet, unassuming ones that they think they could try, and you just gotta let the monster out the cage, But never back down, Never back down. And trust me, I promise you, you meet aggression with aggression, you'll be fine. 216 Skano, you already know.